Now we start the second part of everything for Cuba. After 1916, we never see the 2 centavo denomination again, and also none of the gold coins ever again. But in 1920, more of these coins were made, beginning with the 1 centavo and 5 centavo, 5 centavos, then 10 centavos, 10, 20 centavos, 20, finally 40 centavos, 40. And then that was it until 1932. We made some more 20 centavos. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of these. And then finally the peso for the first time since 1916. It's actually looks like a somewhat nicer one than usual. 1 peso. A peso alone would continue to be made. In 1933, exactly to the standards, by the way, of an ordinary standard U.S. silver dollar. Only there are no U.S. silver dollars being made these years. Not since 1928. Until 1934. And here's a 1934 silver peso. And if you look closely, it actually has the weight. 26.7235 grams. That is also the precise weight of an American style silver dollar. Now this year they also introduced what they called the ABC pesos. These weren't meant to circulate, but merely used as bullion to back the new silver certificates. So 1934 is kind of interesting how the date runs together. That's only on the 1934. But it's exactly the same standard. It's still in peso, Republica de Cuba, the same shield, the same weight, and the same alloy of silver. They just now have a different design because they're no longer meant for circulation. But they're actually kind of lovely in their own way. They still pay Patria Libertad, 1935. Okay. 1936. It's got some toning on it, kind of interesting. 1937. These are kind of unusual. Apparently, none of these were supposed to have escaped except by accident. So, to have actually found one of these is slightly amazing. 38. Well, 38, for some reason, we also made some 1 centavos again. I don't know. I guess there was a need for 1 centavo coins in 1938, along with the bullion-only pesos. Finally, 1939, which, as you're getting into World War II era, is also the last year that we were making commemorative coins until after World War II, when that was revived. Now, during the war, you now have more 1 cents. This is kind of neat. It's brass, because nickel was a rare material. So we made brass 1 centavos and brass 5 centavos for Cuba. Very nice. And after the war, we once again went back to nickel for the 1 centavo one and the 5 centavo. Then I guess it was decided we needed more 10 and 20 cent pieces, so in 1948 some of those were struck. Centavos and 20 centavos. 20. And then some more in 1949. This is actually a very lovely centavo. Brilliant and circulated. 1949. 20 centavos. Okay. And then that was pretty much for circulation. There were some commemoratives made. I don't know if these were meant to circulate as well, but there's a 10 centavo that commemorates 50 years of the nation of Cuba. There's also a 20 cent, just the same. And a 40 cent that does the same once again. The very next year, we are commemorating the man Martí. I guess he was a major freedom fighter during the Spanish-American War. He is now being commemorated. The 1 cent is still being made of brass, interestingly enough. The same year that Costa Rica was still making the 1 cent out of chromium steel, by the way. Nickel still being somewhat hard to come by. Now, instead of a 20 cent, this time we actually just have a 25 cent to commemorate him. Made fully and entirely to the standards of a normal U.S. quarter, the same diameter, alloy, 6.25 grams, so the same weight. To the same standard as the American half dollar. There's also 50 centavos. Centenario de Marte. Con todos y para el bien de todos. With all and with all for the good of all. Okay. And even a peso. Silver dollar size and standard peso. Republica de Cuba. The key is a fairly major motif also in a lot of Cuban coins. But we're almost done here because we make a 1 cent for Cuba. This finally out of copper nickel. And then in 1960, even as things were just beginning to turn sour, we did have one last order, and that was to make the 5 cent cinco centavos for Cuba. The very next year, Czechoslovakia would make the two minimal denominations, you see, that look very similar. But if you look closely, like you look at those things, there's like little angles on them as if they were chiseled very crudely. It just looks like something that represents a communist nation. Such a small tweak, and yet such a strong connotation. See, there's even the key in the motif, but that's always been there. So far, in 1961, even though the communists are now making these and have taken over for Cuba thereafter, the designs have not yet changed. That would soon change, and as I've said, instead of Patria Libertad, it would be Patria o Muerte. So that's Cuba, and that finishes all of what there was for Cuba. All made in Philadelphia.